Hello, a very good morning, afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're watching from. I hope you are doing well and you've had a nice weekend. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make some very dainty little bracelets. I'm going to be using the technique of wrap loop, and we're going to be doing some bracelets, but of course you could turn this design if you wanted to into a necklace. We've got loads of lovely colours in terms of the crystals. We've got some tiny little spacer beads, some gorgeous, beautifully coloured micro-faceted crystals, and some dainty little pearls as well. So straightforward make, providing I can thread these little crystals on okay and see what I'm doing. And I'll take you over to the website shortly and you can see the lovely colours that we've got for you today. A good morning to Rachel, who's in a cloudy barrow. The weather outside here is drizzly. Drizzly is the best description. Good morning to Lisa, I hope you're well. Hello to Anastasia, I hope you're doing all right. She says peace and love. So what time is it there, Anastasia? I guess it's very, very early morning. Good morning to Elaine. She says good morning, Natalie and everybody. So I'm going to take you over to the website now while a few of you come in and have a little look so we can see what we've got for you today. Each kit I think makes 2 bracelets. And say if you wanted to, you could turn the design into a necklace. But I think given the fact that we're using such small and dainty little beads, they just add loads of sparkle, but they're very pretty and they are a comfortable wear around your wrist as well. So if you would like to get your kits today, if you head over to totallybeads.co.uk, you can see in our video tutorial section that we have just here, I've named these Sabrina, so they're the Sabrina crystal bracelets. You can see we've got lots of colours for you. We've got an aqua, a gold, a pink, a rainbow grey. Wait till you see those crystals, they're really gorgeous. We've also got a sea green and we've got a violet blue as well. So each kit makes 2 bracelets up and is £5.99 each. You can, of course, use this technique with maybe something that you've got in your stash, but if you'd like to get these exact makes, then head over to the website. We do ship worldwide. You can change your currency at the top of the page here, and you can get them pretty quick, to be honest. I seen somebody posted in the handmade group last week that they'd ordered and it arrived like next day. So brilliant service from our team at the warehouse. So I'll show you what we've got in each kit. You're going to be getting your Tigertail so you can string on your gorgeous beads and crystals, and of course you're getting your findings in there as well. So we're going to be using a culotte to create a really professional finish. We've got crimp beads in there for you as well, little jump rings and a lovely lobster clasp. And we're also going to be using the micro crystal beads, the glass pearl round beads, and some lovely little ball pins, so you can make your little kind of tassely drops. We've also got some little tiny spacers as well. So I think we're using a 2mm spacer, 3mm gorgeous glass pearls, and these lovely tiny little microfaceted crystals as well. If you want to have a little look exactly what we've got in there, you can see here we're using the gold spacers against the metallic aqua, which are 1.5mm in size, and we've also got the powder blue 3mm glass pearls in this colourway. So I think the gold and the blue look really nice, a lovely contrast. I think this will be the one that I demo, just so you can see it nice and clearly down on my mat. So that on there for you is the aqua. We have the gold as well. So making up 2 bracelets for £5.99. I'll just drop down straight to the products using in the kit so you can see these gorgeous colours. So this is the metallic light gold micro crystal faceted round bead. They are faceted, so they have that extra twinkle, but a beautiful colour on them too. And I've put these with the antique gold. We're using gold spacers in this one and all gold findings, so you have a very kind of opulent gold colourway here. Of course, you'll get all of your findings and stringing material, so you've got enough to make 2 bracelets. This one is the pink, really pretty colourway. So I've used in this one the rose pink beads. They are really, really gorgeous. And I'm using the metallic light pink crystals as well. But I've paired these with the silver spaces. If you wanted to multi-buy, of course, you could decide that you want to put this with the gold colourway. So if you multi-bought your kits, you could change your findings and your pins and your spaces if you wanted to. But I think it's such a beautiful soft pink colour. It looks really beautiful against the silver. This one is your rainbow grey. Now, the picture is not going to show you the twinkle on these. They are absolutely beautiful. If I can pop you down here, you can see they are predominantly grey, but they have a beautiful rainbow finish. So under my light right now, I'm seeing pinks and purples and blues. They're really, really gorgeous. I've put those with the silver plated spacers, which are 2mm in size, and we've gone for the French grey. So this is your gorgeous kind of silver grey colourway. So I'm just putting the charms along the front of the bracelet. Of course, if you wanted to, you could, you could just do a strung one with the crystals and beads. You could have another one because you've got enough to make two. You could add more than 6 of those dangling charms if you wanted to. All we need to do to create them is some little wrap loops. It's really straightforward, and then you can string them directly onto your bracelet. So that one is the rainbow grey. We've got the sea green as well. I absolutely love this colour. I think it looks gorgeous with the gold. You've got that beautiful kind of turquoise. I was going to say turquoise, but your glass pearl rounds are turquoise, and I think they look beautiful with that pop of the metallic sea green. So I put those with the gold spacers and your gold pins and findings as well. So you can have a little look how that looks. Again, just placing on those little tassels, almost those little charms. So it's a bit like a charm bracelet. You were just making your own charms with the beads there. And I think having the pins with the ball on the end just complements those little round spacer beads that we've got as well. And lastly, we've got the violet blue, which I like them all, to be honest. You could do a mix if you wanted to multi-buy. You could put this with any of the colours, really. You could put this, it'll look beautiful with the grey colourway if you wanted to swap around your pearls with that. This one is really, really gorgeous. I've put this with the silver as well. I'm using the steel blue pearls, which I'll show you down on the mat. And we've got the metallic violet blue crystals and the silver spacers. So each bracelet kit makes up 2 bracelets. Really good price today of just £5.99. Have a little look, see which colour you like the most. Let me know. I'd be interested to hear what you like. Have you got, do you kind of go seasonal with your jewellery? So when the weather is kind of icy, do you go for more of this kind of aqua or the rainbow grey? Or are you waiting for the summer and the spring? Are you wanting more spring pinks, which I think is quite a spring-like colour? I also think this aqua is quite spring-like as well, kind of pastel-y. And then I'd say for summer, I'd probably go for the turquoise because it's like warm waters. So I'd probably say the sea green. And then we'll finish for the autumn with the gold. Now have a little look, which colour do you like the best? So these are the Sabrina Crystal Dainty bracelets today. I'll stop sharing that page and I'll head back into the comments. Hopefully we can have a little chat and I can see how you're doing. I'll bring my mat up too. Doesn't seem to want to let me see my screen. You know, they changed the system round that I use, so it's meant to be a lot more straightforward, and I just find it a little bit more cumbersome, to be honest, flicking between the pages. So you can see down on my mat here what we're going to be working on. Hopefully my camera's going to stay all good and proper and you can hear me okay. We look like we're streaming on YouTube and on Facebook, which is what we hope for, and we have been having some technical difficulties. Good morning to Elaine. Hello to Sue. Camille's in as well. She's asking, did I have a nice weekend? I did. I feel tired this morning. Didn't get much sleep over the weekend, but it was a busy one. It was nice. Good morning to Julie. Did you have a nice weekend, Camille? Sorry, that was a bit rude, wasn't it? Just told you what I've been up to and didn't ask what have you been doing. And good morning to Mina. I've got the lovely Christine Baines in. She says, hi everyone. Cloudy here in Darlington. Mina's in. Mina Mystery. She says, oh, I have these sparkly micro crystals, but no pearls. You're going to have to get your pearls. These are 3mm in size. They are really dainty, very, very delicate looking and very pretty, I think. Good morning to Anna. Judith's in too. She says they will look great as necklaces, says Mina. You can definitely do this as a necklace. You would, of course, just need to make it longer. So stringing on more of those crystals and beads, or of course you could add it to a chain as well. I would suggest though, if you are going to add a chain to it, do make sure that you've got a very fine, delicate chain. I think it would complement it well. Hello to Carol. Good morning to Jackie. And Sheila's in saying good morning, Natalie and fellow beaders. So I've got all my beaders and makers in, I'm hoping. If you do need to catch us up at a later time, of course you can head over to the website and we will have our video tutorial there. And of course we're going to share it on the YouTubes as well. So I will just hold them up really to you so you can see how gorgeous. Should I move them all out the way and show them one by one? That might be a little bit better. So here we have the beautiful Sabrina crystal bracelet, and this colourway is the violet blue. So you can see those pearls, I think, match really nicely, and you've got those fast crystals. So if I can hold the crystals like so, you can see the twinkle on them. Little spacer beads, so they're really nicely suited to each other. Everything's tiny. And then I've just created little wrap loops to create those dangling charms. So your charms do move, kind of creates like a little fringe. Of course, you can scale this up and you can place your little dangles however you like. I've done 6 dangles in this. I usually do an odd number and would do 7, and if you wanted to do that you could add that into the center, but I've kept this as the center with the little spacer in the crystal, and I'm just going to be framing those little dangles with those 3mm glass pearls. You can string on however you want in whatever pattern. You should have plenty in your kits to do what you want with, but I've gone for a little pattern where I've added on 10 of the little micro faceted crystals and then a spacer, and then I've done 5 crystals and a spacer, 5 crystals and a spacer, 5 crystals and a spacer, and then finished off with the pearl. Of course you can adjust the size. These are all made to about 8 inches. If I just get my ruler out, obviously you've got your clasp and your findings, which add that extra, but this is working out at 8 inches. So if you want to make it smaller, I think it might be slightly over 8 inches actually. If you did want to make it smaller, then you can just change up how you've ordered your crystals and what order that you want. We got this lovely lobster clasp, which is 12mm, which is included in your kit. So you can just have that attach straightforward like so. So that one there is your beautiful violet blue. The next one I'm going to show you is the sea green. Absolutely love this. I think it looks gorgeous with the gold. If I lay it flat you can probably see it a little bit better. When it's worn, these will dangle onto your wrist, so they will sit kind of flat against your wrist, and they flip as well, so you can maneuver them. They've got lots of movement to them, which means these crystals are really going to twinkle so very prettily. Love the colour of that with those turquoise beads. I think turquoise and gold, or kind of copper colours. Turquoise is one I think that goes with everything, but if you ever look in nature, if you've ever found natural gemstone turquoise, they're usually found in like copper deposits. So I think that kind of gold colourway and that coppery warm colour just complements each other really nicely. It looks very much like nature intended to me. So if you're never sure of what colour palette, look to nature. Green particularly goes with everything. Have a little look at your surroundings, maybe your garden or a little walk outside. And you can get a little bit of inspiration there. So that one is your turquoise colourway. I might pop these to the side for now. The next one I'm going to show you is this gorgeous pink. So this is kind of like your rose colourway. I've put this with the silver, and if you can see the sheen on those crystals, because they've got that kind of metallic look, I think it looks lovely with the silver. And there's your little pearls. We have your gorgeous gold. So this is it when it's opened up. Again, I'm just placing those little dangles on into the centre. So that is your gorgeous gold. You can see the sparkle on there. This one is the grey. Now, the crystals in this, can you see that rainbow grey finish? Absolutely beautiful. There's blues, there's pinks, there's purples. Mina says she's loving the teal and turquoise colourway. I'm loving the French grey. I think, was it French grey? It's grey something. I think they were French grey pearls and rainbow grey crystals. Let me just double check what colour the pearls were. Yeah, French grey, 3mm pearls. So of course I've put this with the silver. And then lastly, we have this gorgeous colour, which is what I'm going to demo with for you today. This one is the aqua. So in this kit, you've got the gorgeous powder blue pearls, and we've got a metallic aqua on your micro crystal round beads, which are 1.5mm. And I've put these with the gold spaces. So I'm going to demo with these today, just because I think the contrast should show up a little bit better on my mat. You can see those beautiful faceted crystals. You can really see the facet on that. So you can see that they're cut, which means the light just bounces off them. So I'll be making quite a large bracelet today. If you want to, size it down a little bit, just adapt how you're placing your crystals. You might want to just do 5 and then a spacer and 5 and a spacer and 5 and a spacer. But there's enough to do it in this design. So you've got 6 of your dangles. You've got them surrounded by your pearls just to hold your little dangles in place on the wrap loops. And then you've got enough crystals to do 2 bracelets. So you should have, well, in this design, as I say, I've done 10 microfaceted crystals, then 3 clusters of the 5 on both sides. Good morning, Pauline. I'm well. I hope you are too. So I'm going to use the Tigertail. I'm cutting about 8 inches of the Tigertail. Again, you can adjust that if you want to. This is going to make it really strong and sturdy, but I can make that really professional finish using my culottes and my crimp beads. But to start off, I'm going to do the main technique I'm going to be showing you today is little wrapped loops. So I'm going to be making these lovely little dangling charms. And I'm just going to be making a wrapped loop to create those and then thread them on. You could turn a loop instead of doing a wrap loop, but your wrap loop's going to be most secure, so it's not going to come loose on your Tigertail. Once they're on, they're on. And I think doing a little wrap loop's always a nice finish. If you've got any like extender chains, you can just pop them onto the end of your little jump ring or your clasp. And I think when you wear them, particularly as a necklace, just to have something kind of dangling along around the back, just that extra finish is very pretty. So I'm going to take my ball pins out. Now you can get different pins obviously different colours and different lengths. These ones are 50mm in size, and I've chosen the ball pins because they've got that little ball tip finish, which I think echoes nicely on the little spacer beads that I'll be using as well. They're roughly around the same size. There's a slight difference in them. Obviously, these are the different colours. I'm going to be using the gold ones in this, but I think that just kind of echoes that, and I think it's a nice little touch. You can, if you prefer, use a flat head pin, which has got that nail tip finish. So I'm going to create 6 of these. I'm just going to take out my lovely little 3mm pearls, and I'm going to add on some of my gorgeous micro-faceted sparkly crystals. Now, you can apply, when you come to threading your crystals, in a way that you kind of line up your tiger tail with your crystals. We'll get to this a bit later. And then sometimes I find it's easier to just kind of slide them on to your threading material rather than picking them up one by one. They have got, obviously, because they are very small at 1.5mm, they do have still quite a substantial drill hole in them. Because they're faceted, sometimes it can be a little tricky to see. But to create my drops, I'm just going to pop on a pearl and then one of the micro-faceted crystals. And you can see they will slide on to the pearl really easily. So to create a wrapped loop, I need my round nose pliers. I only want to make a small loop, so I'm going to take towards the very ends of my pliers, which are the tapered part, so furthest away from the handle, and that will create a small loop and also a small space, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend that over the top of my pin. And this space now between the crystal and that bend is where I'm going to create those wraps. So I'm going to try and position it up this way so you can see. It's my hand that moves, so I reposition my hand so now my pliers are above and below the pin, and then I bring it all the way around and then reposition my hand again so it's now side on. And then I bring that loop all the way around, can nudge to straighten it up. So what I want is I want that little loop to sit directly above that crystal. So it's in kind of an I shape rather than like a P. You can see I've lifted this tail end up. And the reason why I've done that is if I take that end, you can use another pair of pliers to give you a little bit of purchase. Or you could probably use your finger. The pins are nice and soft really to work with. When I've lifted that up slightly, it means that that first wrap fits nice and tightly underneath that loop. If I just adjust my hand, you should be able to see that nice. And then I'm going to bring it round the front, and I'm just going to create little half turns. So gravity, because I will be holding it this way, will mean that crystal falls to the bottom of the pearl or the top of the pearl, and that pearl falls to the bottom of the pin. So I've created that little space, and I'm going to be creating those wraps in between that little space. I'm going to hold it this way just so you can see me filling that space, but obviously gravity will make that fall as you hold it. So halfway round, and then readjust to bring it round the front again, and then once more around the back and around the front. So I'm creating about 3 wraps. Can you see I've filled that space, and those kind of coils, those wraps are just sitting nicely next to each other. They're not kind of bulky and they're not crossed over. So I've got that going all the way round. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come and I'm going to trim off the excess of that pin. So I want to get nice and close. I do put my fingers over the end of it just to stop it flying away. And then what I tend to do is I'll pop it onto keep it on my round nose just to give myself a little bit of grip and purchase. So there's a tiny little bit sticking up. I want to make sure I'm not going to not touching this gorgeous crystal with my pliers because I don't want to crack it. I just want to get that bit of the tail end of the wire from the pin just to make sure that I'm tucking it in nicely. So I tend to rotate it, and then I'll rub my finger over it just to make sure that that's flat. It's still sticking up a little bit, So just as I say, I kind of rotate it. I keep it in here just to give myself a little bit of purchase, really, so I can see what I'm doing. And by rotating it, I just mean I kind of look around the pin. So I've made sure, if you can see, that that wire is now stuck in and there's no sharp edges sticking out. It's looking fairly flush. And I'm just going to repeat that because I'd like to create 6 little drops. So you can change how you want to have these pins. You've got a nice long length, so if you wanted your dangles to be a little bit longer, I just cut off the wire from my strand there so I can get my crystals out. If you wanted your dangles to be longer, you can of course just add more crystals and pearls onto it, but I think these just make a nice kind of miniature size. So again, obviously I'm going to do it nice and slow so you can see, but it doesn't take too long. And you've got that nice secure wrapped loop now. Nothing's going to go through that. It's fully secure all the way around. So again, we're going to do our pearl and our micro-faceted crystal, just to give it that extra bit of twinkle. Drop them down to the bottom, take my round nose pliers at the fine end of the tip. If you want those loops wider, you're just going to go up towards the handle, but I want kind of the end. I'm going to bend it over in a 90-degree angle, and that's going to mean that when I bring this pin around the top of the plier, it's going to create a loop which is sitting nice at the top. Adjust by giving it a little tilt if you need to. So you've just created that little circle. I tend to swap to my less dominant hand when I bring that tail round because I have more control there. So I'm just swapping it over. I've got that loop nice and tight around the top of that loop. So my wraps now will sit nicely in. So I'm bringing it around the front, around the back, and around the front again. 3 wraps is more than enough. It's just going to fill that space. Come in with my cutters. I'm cutting nice and close so I don't have that much to tuck down. Back on to give myself some purchase. And then just make sure when you are tucking in that end that you're not putting any pressure on that crystal and you're just tucking in the tiny bit of the wire there. So it's nice and flush. Keep going with that, so I'll make a few more. And you can make as many dangles as you want. You should have enough, I think you'll get 12 pins to make 2 bracelets. Of course, if you've got more in your stash, you can add more. You could just add more onto one bracelet and have them going all the way round if you wanted to. And then your other bracelet you could just do with your crystals and your spacers. They make nice stacker bracelets as well, so if you wanted to make a couple of them and wear them on top of each other, you can do. Of course, they make sweet little gifts. So I'm just going in for the tip of my pliers. I know I'm getting quite close to the camera, so sometimes it goes slightly out of shot with all the sparkle that I've got on the desk. Tend to just move that round with my fingers just to get my little loop into position. You've got that space between the loop and the bead, which means I can just fill that with the wraps. So wrapping all the way around, I'll let go of that wire tail end from the pin. You can, if you need to, if you get it a bit gappy, you can always just readjust by popping a little bit of pressure on those wraps just to neaten it up. And I just let go so I can bring it around the front and around the back. Sometimes you might want to lift your pin away from your beads and the wrap just so you can get your wire cutters in nice and close to trim off. always make sure you tuck in your ends. It's important that when you're wearing jewellery that, you know, we're making jewellery, that you're remembering that as much as the making of it is fun and is a lovely process in itself, it has to be wearable. You want to make sure as well, if you're gifting your makes or you're selling your makes, that, you know, the recipient is happy and it's comfortable on them. There's no sharp edges. We don't want this to catch on clothing or the wrist or anything like that. So just make sure you tuck in and give it a good inspection. I tend to leave it on my round nose pliers just so I can get a bit of purchase, but if you need to take it off and just adjust it, you can do. So that's 3. I made 1 earlier, so that would be 4. Popping on pearl and the crystal. You could do it the other way around as well if you wanted. You could pop your crystal on and then your pearl, but I think it sits nicely this way. Pliers in, bending it over to a 90-degree angle, which will mean that when I turn my loop around the top of the pin and back underneath it, it's sitting right in the centre. It's not over to one side, and that will mean they'll dangle nicely from the bracelet. Tend to swap over to my less dominant hand, lifting that wire end up ever so slightly, just to make sure that my wraps are nice and close to the loop and fill the space. If you only have enough space for 2 wraps, it's absolutely fine. It'll still be really secure. You just want to fill the space between the loop and the crystal. So sometimes I'll put my pliers on and I'll kind of twist like so, and that'll just take that wire right around. And last one, if you get a pin and it's a little bit like this, a little bit bent out of shape, it's okay, just straighten it out with your fingers. You'll be cutting most of that tail end off anyway. And these pins tend to be really good quality from Totally Beads. Sometimes when things are plated, you can get like kind of the gold can kind of flake off it, but I haven't really found that be an issue. Obviously they are base metal and then coated, but they're nice and soft, so I don't have to put much strength and effort in to turn my loop or to wind round the wire. They are usually soft enough to do with my fingers, but if you use your tools, it tends to be a little bit neater. Just keep hold of that end so you're ensuring you're not firing it off anywhere. And tuck that in. So I've made 6 of my charms, and my loops you'll see are all roughly around the same size. So I've got nice even wraps and loops. I want to tuck that tail in a teeny bit more. Difficult to see under my lamp. That's a bit better. So I've created 6 little charms, and now I'm just a case of like threading them on and coming up with whatever design that I want to use for my bracelet. What I tend to find is when I'm designing something, I start from the middle and I work my way out, and that way I've got symmetry either side. If you know exactly the pattern that you want to do, you can put your findings on one end and then that acts as a stopper, and then you can just thread onto the other side. but I like to start from the middle out. So I've got a little bit of a curve in my tiger tail, and I'm happy with that because it's going to be curved into my bracelet shape anyway. So I'm kind of going to work with that curve. I'm going to start with my spacer bead. Now the spacer beads you've got in your kit are 2mm in size, so they are small. And they are lovely. Just make sure you don't get them mixed up with your crimp beads if you're getting them out of your pack. You should be able to tell because you're going to have a lot more spacers than you will need crimps. So I'm going to start off just adding on one spacer into the center of my bracelet, and then I'm going to take a couple of my crystals, my micro-faceted crystals, and I'm going to place one onto one side of my tiger tail, and I'm going to add another one onto the other side of my tiger tail, so I've got that symmetry. And I'll just let them fall into the center. Really, really sweet. I'm then going to take a pearl and I'm going to add on my first charm. So that's going to be the center of my bracelet. And then I'm just going to tend to keep hold of both ends so they don't fall off really. And whatever I pop onto one end, I pop onto the other side. Or at least I try to. I'm now going to pop on my first charm. So I'm going to put a charm onto one end and a charm onto the other. I'm not really paying too much attention to kind of how they sit. They'll be the same all the way round. And because I've done a wrapped loop, it's not as if, there's an opening on one side, it's wrapped all the way round. So I'm going to pop my first little charms onto each one. Let me get some more pearls out of my strand. And I would like to have each of my charms in between the pearls. So I'll do pearl, charm, pearl. And that will just make sure that those charms stay in place. If my loops are larger, then the loop could possibly slide over that micro-faceted crystal or spacer bead. So if my loop was bigger than, say, 2mm being the spacer bead or 1.5mm being the crystal, then it could slide and move along the bracelet. If I'm containing them in between the two pearls, the pearls are 3mm in size. So my loops, because I'm using the smaller end of my round nose pliers, they'll stay in place. So although there's movement where they can swing, like so, they're not going to slide up and down the bracelet. So once I've popped my pearls on, I'm going to add another of my spacer beads. Put a couple more of those out as I go. And again, you can change your pattern up here. You don't have to pop them on in the same order as I'm doing. I just think it's nice to, as long as your pearls are surrounding your drops, you're okay. So I've popped a spacer onto each side. I'm going to put another micro-faceted crystal on, I think. I love the contrast and the colours between them. And then I'm going to add another pearl. So by keeping hold of those tail ends, I can just work off each side at the same time. I'm going to pop another one of my dangling charms. And again, surround that by my glass pearl. So these are really lightweight. And then I think I'm going to add a micro-faceted crystal. I might add an extra spacer. So the designs I've done have all been the same. I think at the moment I'm just kind of playing around with it and seeing what looks nice. As I've got enough to make 2 bracelets in my kit, I think I can afford to kind of change it around sometimes. And then I'm going to finish with my pearl. My dangle, little charm, and another of my pearls. So I've got my centre of my bracelet looking like this. And now I'm just going to start stringing on each side. So you can, if you want, pop a stopper on and work on one and then do the same on the other. I'm going to pop a little spacer bead on, and then I'm just going to pop spacers and the micro-faceted crystals. I'm going to finish there with my pearls. So for now, I will pop a little stopper onto the end, and then I'm going to add on 10 of my crystals. So rather than picking it up one by one, what I can do is I can slide my tiger tail through while they're still on the strand, and then just transfer them from one to the other. So as long as they're lined up, it should be much quicker to add them through. So let's count how many I've got there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. And then I'm going to pop on a little spacer. And then I'm going to swap sides and do the same on the other. You can just continue to work off that one side. But if I do it this way, then I'll remember how many I've put into each one. Again, I'm going to line my tiger tail up with my strand, get into shot a little bit better, and just transfer them over. You've got quite a good size drill hole here, so they're on that little wire, and now they're going on to my tiger tail. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That should be 10. It's just a much quicker way to transfer them. Still dropping down into the centre, adding another spacer on. And now I'm going to do a little group of 5. So lining it up again. Moving 5 crystals onto the tiger tail. And my little spacer bead in between. And then I'll do another 5. Again, you can add however many you want, and you can continue whatever repetition you want if you're making a necklace. And of course, you're going to need to add a lot more on. And then I'm going to add another 5. And I just find this is a much quicker way than picking it up one by one. So I'll do the same onto the other side now. So I've got 3 groups of 5 to go on. So just pull that string back so I can get my tiger tail through. And then I'm just alternating those little clusters with the spacer. My last little group of 5. Finishing with a spacer. And then before I attach my findings on, I'm going to add one more little pearl. I'm going to do that because I think they sit nicely in terms of the size against the culotte that I'm going to use. So I'll pop a little pearl onto the end. I've got that curvature already of my bracelet. I'm just going to check everything's nicely lined up. And then I'm going to take out my crimp beads and my culottes. So my culottes will mean I don't need to use any kind of crimp tubes and covers, and I don't need to use any French wire or any kind of fiddly things. Gives me a nice professional finish. All I'm going to need to do is double crimp, and I don't even have to crimp my crimp beads properly. I can just cheat and crush them. So I'm going to add my culotte on so the ends are facing outwards, so I can attach my jump ring, and that means you can change your clasp as well. So if you were to make a bracelet like this and then someone said, actually, I don't want a lobster clasp, I'd rather have a magnetic clasp, you don't have to unstring the whole bracelet. You can just take the clasp that you've chosen off the jump ring and then swap that round. So my culotte's going up this way. I'm going to take 2 of my crimp beads and I'm just going to slide those on. So you can see they're a good size to fit over the tiger tail, and they'll fit nicely inside the culotte. So I'm going to bring that last crimp bead up towards the end of the tiger tail, and I'm either going to crimp it properly, or in this case I'm just going to flatten it and then slide the next one up and do exactly the same, so they're sitting nice and neatly against each other, and that's going to stop the end of that culotte from sliding off. But you'll see those 2 crimp beads will fit nicely inside of that rounded section. I'm going to come with my fingers and just fold that over. So I've got these 2 little bits nicely lined up. And then with a pair of chain nose pliers, I'm just going to very gently press over the top. And can you see how I've flattened those kind of, it's not flattened, it's still domed, but I've brought those 2 sections together. So I have that all fully lined up and it's kind of sitting nice and flush. I'm now going to take the other side of my bracelet and I'm going to push down all of those pearls and crystals and spacer beads right up to the end of that culotte, so there's no tiger tail on show. Of course, I'm going to add my last little bead because I want it to be the same on both sides. So I'm going to add another glass pearl onto there. So I've got that nice symmetry. And I'm going to get that rounded shape as well. I'm going to add my next culotte on. This is also going to go so it's facing outwards. So I can attach that jump ring onto the end. So that little hole is going to be just where my tiger tail is going to go through, and the rounded part of the culotte is going to butt up against that little glass pearl. I'm going to take one of my crimp beads, I'm going to slide that onto the tiger tail and let that fall right inside of that culotte. I'm going to come in with my pliers. I'm going to move my hands in an awkward way just so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I've created that curve of the bracelet, and I'm going to get my crimp bead inside my culotte right down towards the bottom. Sorry, my crimp bead inside of it, and I'm just going to flatten it. You see there? Nice and flat. And then just to make it extra sturdy and durable, I'm going to take another crimp bead. So I'm going to double crimp, and I'm going to slide that onto the tiger tail too. Let that drop down so it's sitting on top of that last crimp bead. And then again with my pliers, if you can see what I'm doing here, just going to flatten it down. That's going to trap that tiger tail inside. And by having a double crimp, by applying 2 of those crimp beads, if one was to fail, the other one should stop it. So you can see now that that's not going anywhere. It's nice and firm. I'm going to just come in with my cutters, and I'm going to trim off just the end of that tiger tail, nice and close. And then again, fold over the culotte with my fingers. And then as it's got that little space between it, you just need to gently press down to flatten that together. All I need to do now is attach my crimp bead and my jump rings and my clasp. So I'm obviously using the same colour findings. Joanne says, I love the sparkle of the beads. They are really pretty. I just need 2 jump rings for this, and I just need 1 clasp. So I'm going to go for the Lobster Clasp, which has got little pull down there, and that will just open it up quite easily. I'm using quite small and dainty little jump rings. You'll get all these in your kit, and I'm just going to give it a little twist. I'm going to open it and close it because that one doesn't look like it's fully lined up, so I'm just going to manipulate it before I start. So I'm just going to give it a little turn towards me. That can hook on to the little holes at the bottom of my culotte, those little loops. It's also going to mean that, you know, there's nothing rubbing against my beading thread. It's all contained within that culotte. And then I'm going to slide on my lobster clasp onto one end before I take my pliers again, and I'm going to turn that in the opposite direction just so that jump ring is fully closed and fully aligned with each other. So to open my jump ring, I'm just going to give it a little turn towards me. So I'm going to get purchase on both sides of it, give it a little twist to open it up, slide it on through, and then just twisting back to close. Oh, it clicked, so that means it's all aligned perfectly. If it doesn't quite line up, take it slightly past the point where those 2 ends meet, and then it should spring back. It's got like a nice memory to it. And then that's your bracelet done and dusted. Of course, if you wanted to make a necklace with it, you could do exactly that, just do it more. Joanne says, loves the sparkle of the beads. Rachel says, nice and dainty for a necklace or a bracelet. Anastasia says, the necklace is beautiful. Is it on the choker necklace styles? This is a bracelet, Anastasia, but you could definitely make it as a necklace, and I think it'd look gorgeous as a choker. You'd have your beads dangling obviously against your neckline because of the way they hang. So if I was to pop it on my wrist, you know, you can move these around and you can have them flipping in different directions. But if you were to have them around as a necklace, they would sit like that around your neck, and you could do whatever you wanted with it. Maybe pop an extender chain on, and then you've got the ability to adjust it and sit it to whatever neckline you want. But this is a little bracelet. They are called the Sabrina Crystal Dainty bracelets because of these lovely dainty crystals and beads that we're using. In your kit, you get enough to make 2 bracelets, and they are £5.99. You can multi-buy if you wanted to buy more of the same colour, and then you've definitely got enough to make a necklace and maybe, you know, maybe a matching bracelet as well. Or you can mix your colours if you wanted to buy, say, the aqua and the gold. So most of them, some of them come on gold findings with gold spaces and gold pins. Some will come on silver. So you've got the aqua to choose from, the gold, the pink, the rainbow grey, the sea green and the violet blue. I'll show you them, the colours that we've got here again. So this one was the violet blue. We've got the aqua, which I've just made. The gorgeous rainbow grey. It's called rainbow because I'm using French grey pearls, but again, just if you missed the beginning, they've got the most amazing twinkle on those crystals. Under my light, I'm getting the blues and purples and some pinks and things there, so they're really, really gorgeous. We've got the pink colourway, which is a lovely metallic pink crystal on the silver with those pearls. And then we've got this sea green turquoise. So we've got a turquoise bead. Look at them. And that's on the gold. Camille says, lovely, thanks, Natalie. Have a nice day. Very, very welcome. So thank you so much for joining me today. I do hope that you enjoyed the make. Head over to totalybeads.co.uk if you want to get your hands on the kits. They're all there for you, all in stock. And hopefully they should be there for you to play with. If you do make them and you wouldn't mind sharing, I'd love to see what you do. As I say, they do make lovely stacker bracelets if you wanted to stack them up. The colours look gorgeous together as well. I can't take you down on the mat now because I've moved my camera, but they just look beautiful if you just wanted to have them as, you know, little strung bracelets. I'm going to be back with you on Wednesday. We're going to do some necklaces. I think I've got gorgeous gemstone chips and lovely big heart pendants. So a little bit boho, bohemian kind of chic. I'm looking at them because these are the ones that I think that I'm doing on Wednesday. So if you can come and join me for that, I look forward to seeing you. I hope you all have a very lovely week, and I'll see you